Hey everyone, and welcome to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, where we highlight everyday humans doing crazy amazing things, people who utilize their time, talents, and resources to give back, pay it forward, and make a difference. I'm Katrina Carlson.
And my name is Jefferson Denham. We want to thank you so much for
you.
joining us from wherever you are on this crazy amazing planet. We believe it is more important than ever to stay connected, to stay positive, and to stay active.
Yes.
And if you agree, well, then you are in the right place.
Well, I do agree, actually, yeah, for sure. So I want to ask our audience, have you ever felt that feeling of being misunderstood? Jefferson's raising his hand. And have you ever felt pressured to conform to someone else's standards? I'll say here for that. Have you ever been made to doubt yourself, wondering if you even had any talents that you could use to contribute in any meaningful way? If so, then you are definitely in the right place because our guest, Jonathan Mooney, has some answers. Jonathan is an award-winning writer, entrepreneur, and educational activist whose own struggles resulted in him not even learning to read until he was 12 years old.
12 years old.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So you can probably tell we are very excited to share this conversation that we're going to have with Jonathan Mooney. If his name sounds familiar to you, there's a reason for that. He is one of the most sought-after voices today in the movement to reimagine and renew the education process for the 21st century. Jonathan's passion has been born out of debilitating experiences he had in school based on his dyslexia and ADHD. He was labeled a failure from a young age as a result.
Wow.
Yeah, and as Jonathan points out, many times the educational system as it has existed does not celebrate differences, only conformity.
Oh, well, that's true. I mean, society can be like that for
right?
sure, right?
Yeah.
And that's why Jonathan Mooney is on a mission to dispel the myth of normalcy, which he believes hinders people from reaching their fullest potential. And I would have to agree with that. Jonathan brings a message embracing the perspectives of inclusion, neurodiversity, and youth empowerment.
Hallelujah.
We can use that. Jonathan believes that we should stop trying to fix people and start empowering them to succeed.
Right.
As a public speaker, Jonathan's presentations are delivered with such humor and heart and tremendous passion, and I've witnessed that several times. So that is just another reason why it is so awesome to be talking with him today about why, as the title of his book says, normal sucks.
Normal sucks.
Normal sucks.
Nothing subtle about that. We are definitely excited for this. So, as you know, we are always looking to bring you the most uplifting and inspiring stories and practical information. So please check out our website at crazyamazinghumans.com and make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletter so that we can keep you informed and stay in touch. Also, by subscribing to our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts, you'll be first to know when a new episode is released.
And since we film the episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans YouTube channel. Our YouTube versions have extras like photos and videos that further tell our story with interesting and fun visuals. And if you check us out on YouTube, you can leave us a comment or a question and we will respond. Absolutely, because we love communicating.
Katrina, she will respond.
I do.
So we truly appreciate you. Can't say that enough. And we are on a mission to inspire you and remind you that you are crazy amazing.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy, crazy amazing.
Hey, Jonathan, we want to welcome you to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast. We're so happy to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks.
To be part of it.
Yeah, so we want to let our audience know a little bit more about you. So bear with me while I brag about you just a little bit. You're an award-winning writer, entrepreneur, and educational activist whose work has been featured on the New York Times, the LA Times, the Chicago Tribune, USA Today, HBO, and NPR, just to name a few. You have a number of social change initiatives all around the country that tackle incredibly diverse social challenges. The Santa Monica Wellbeing Project is something that caught my eye because it's here in our hometown, and it won the Bloomberg Philanthropies Mayor's Challenge. Therefore, it was recognized as one of the most innovative ideas in local government in the world. It's just incredible. But, you know, more important than all those awards and recognitions that you've gotten is that these organizations and projects that you have created have made a real difference in people's lives. And you've made that difference happen in so many concrete ways. I just want to thank you for that, Jonathan.
And I just got to say, too, that's why you're here. Crazy Amazing Humans is about people making a difference, just like you are. By the way, we are going to vie for your PR company because I got more to add to that. And you can tell me, Jonathan, if we're hired afterwards. So you're a highly sought after speaker who has spoken to kids from kindergarten through high school, corporate execs, and certainly there's childlike behavior in corporate execs sometimes, just saying, Ivy League professors, inmates, teachers. You've done a TED Talk, everything in between, about reimagining education. And this is the main point for the 21st century by emphasizing inclusion, neurodiversity, debunking the myth of normalcy, and much more. You're also an author. Your books include Learning Outside the Lines with David Cole, who sounds like such a cool guy. I hope we get a chance to ask you about him. The Short Bus, A Journey Beyond Normal, and your latest book entitled, Kat, say it with me, Normal Sucks. There you go. So it's a journey, how to live, learn, and thrive outside the lines. Not bad for a guy who was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD. Jonathan Mooney, welcome to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
Well, thank you. And you can tell that the ADHD needs to be in capital letters, given all the disparate, overwhelming things that I've been a part of over the last 20 years. So thank you so much for that humbling introduction and the opportunity to share my work and the things I believe in with you all.
We're so happy to have you here, and disparate or not, they're all helping people. You have made more advances for people with neurodiversity than, you know, anyone I've ever heard of. So, and I will say you really stand out because I met you back in 2009 when you were doing a presentation on behalf of your mom's organization, which at the time was called South Bay Community Center. And it was in front of the Every Child Grant Board. And I was there as a member of that. Your presentation with your mother was so phenomenal. We were so overwhelmed. You were granted not only because of the presentation, but because of the work you did and were doing and continue to do as one of your projects. You were awarded the $1 million, and I had to go meet you. I went up to you afterwards like another fangirl, introduced myself, found out that we both were grads of Brown University, and you know, I have just admired you ever since. So happy to have you here today. And later you actually helped me with one of your many organizations, Streetcraft LA, and you came to my Sunshine State of Mind CD release party, and we displayed some of the artwork of your amazing artists. And so I just want to thank you. We are big believers in you, right, Jefferson?
Yeah. I think that, Jonathan, and this is going to lead up to my first question for you, my friend. You have, and we know your story, but maybe our audience doesn't, because of your background, because of the things you've been through the traumas that you've experienced. It has fueled you. It has informed your mission in life. And so for those who don't know your story, could you share a little bit about that inaugural part of your life journey?
Yeah. And you know, first of all, I just want to thank you all for the passion that you bring to surfacing and celebrating every human being's innate talents and gifts and capacity to contribute to the world. Because that's what my work has been all about, running through the different social issues, through the different modalities of social change. It's been about the idea that every human being has value, everyone has something to give, and they have a strength that they can use to better their lives and better the lives of others. So I'm deeply honored to be a part of that mission that you all are on today. You know, you're right that my activism, my social change work, which has spanned 20 years, first nonprofit I founded in my dorm room as an undergraduate in college, called Eye to Eye. It does come directly from my own personal experience of getting the short end of the stick by a very powerful institution of school. Me and school didn't get along from day one. I was the proverbial, square peg that didn't fit the round hole. I had every label you could imagine. I was called the dumb kid, the lazy kid, the crazy kid. I eventually became the quote unquote special ed kid. I was diagnosed with a continuum of language-based learning disabilities and executive functioning challenges, ADHD and others. And I got screwed because of those. I mean, we should just call it what it is, not beat around the bush. I spent a lot of time chilling out with the janitor in the hallway. I grew up on a first name basis with Shirley, the receptionist in the principal's office. I spent a lot of the day hiding in the bathroom to escape reading out loud with tears streaming down my face. I had a plan for suicide when I was 12. I was generally given the message that because I was different, I was deficient. And that's a message I got. It's a message that many folks with atypical brains and bodies get. And it's a message that folks across the diversity continuum get. And I've decided to sort of dedicate my life to challenging that message and to making the path towards thriving a little bit easier than it was for me.
You're amazing. And you've helped so many people, even just discussing this word normal. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of, what you have put forward, like the history of the word normal, what that means, and, how you've re-examined it?
Well, there's a social philosopher I admire named Michel Foucault, who wrote, and I paraphrase here, that the judges of normality are ever present everywhere. And all of us are subject to their jurisprudence. That's the idea that this notion of normal is something that looms over all of us and defines our worth, our children's worth. And for some of us, more than I think we know, that notion of normal wounds us deeply. I know it was the case for me, because I had a brain that didn't fit the middle of the bell curve. I got the message that I was abnormal, that I was less than as a human being. And challenging that construct, that notion, has really been my life's mission, but it's also been the core vehicle to healing and thriving. And I've come to learn, after a lot of struggle and a lot of work, that this notion of normal is not an objective fact that some scientists discovered, but really a cultural construct that was created by an elite and powerful group of folks to keep most people down. The word normal did not enter the English language until the 1860s. I'm going to say that again, because that is a staggering fact for a construct that we think has been with us forever. It did not enter the English language until the 1860s. Its origin is in mathematical and statistical thinking. Average and normal are used interchangeably. And average, by definition, is something that doesn't exist in the world. Give you an example of that. The average number of children in America is 2.5 kids. Don't know about you, but I've never met 0.5 child before, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like people
So
have 2.5 kids.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I have 3, so I wouldn't mind going down a half. It would be make my life a little easier some days. But in all seriousness, this idea that there's a normal human has caused a lot of pain, and it's been used nefariously to marginalize whole groups of people, and it's wrong, and it's got to stop. And that's what I've dedicated, a big part of my work in neurodiversity around. But that notion threads through all of my social justice, social activism. It's fundamentally been a bit about fighting for every single human being's right to be different.
I love that. And you had even said in another interview that the National Institute of Health had done a scientific survey where they're trying to find the normal brain, and there is no such thing.
Yeah.
It goes even deeper than that. The NIH did a longstanding statistical analysis running parallel to the quest for the human genome and trying to find, the typical or normal human genome. And the quote from that study from the National Institute of Health is there is no normal human genome. What is typical is for all of us to be different.
I like that. And
That's
we are.
beautiful.
And
Wow.
definitely feeling that. So let's see. So neurodiversity, that's kind of all part and parcel of that neurodiversity you talk about. Is there anything else you want to unpack about neurodiversity?
Well, I mean, I think we're at an important cultural moment, as we wrestle as a country with building a more inclusive world, a world in which Black lives matter, truly matter. As we wrestle with the police violence around Black and brown, and I need to say LGBTQ plus folks, because that population has been subject of police brutality and violence throughout human history. And we need to add on to that folks with neurodiversities. There's a wonderful foundation that's been a thought leader in this space called the Rudderman Foundation out of Massachusetts. They produce white papers around disability policy and rights. And one of their white papers has documented that upwards of 90% of all victims of police brutality were Black or brown men or women, but also at the same time, people with neurodiversities, with autism, with mental health challenges. And so it's important for us to elevate this conversation out of pathology, because for a long time, we talked about, somebody's disorder, and to elevate that conversation to a true conversation around diversity. And that matters because when we talk about these things through the lens of pathology, it leads us down the road of trying to fix the person. But when we talk about it through the lens of diversity, it leads us down the road of systems change and integrating in our diversity conversation a whole swath of human beings that have historically been left out of it.
I mean, what I love about this is you're challenging the things that we just take for granted as being, this is just the way it is and there's nothing we can do about it. And so having said that, I know that certain people have come alongside you, teachers. I'd like you to talk about Mr. R in just a second from third grade, but what can we be doing? People like Mr. R looking for opportunities, whether you're an educator, whether you're a parent, to come alongside and encourage people who are like you, grew up maybe labeled not normal, and not recognizing your distinct, what you do have, that amazing abilities that you can bring to the world.
We human beings don't thrive alone. Human beings thrive together. And I think we're at a moment in our culture, hopefully, where the myth of the independent agent is being challenged. And we can have a better understanding and recognition of our collective responsibilities and our collective obligation to lift other people up around us. And that was my journey. As you rightfully said, I didn't learn to read until I was 12. I ended up graduating from Brown University, an Ivy League university, with an honors degree in English literature. How did I do that? I didn't pull myself up by my bootstraps, I was hoisted onto the shoulders of giants who facilitated that journey of change. And those people have very, very real names, a guy named Mr. R, third grade teacher. I think he is a role model for anybody out there who wants to lift somebody up, whether they are an individual with a learning difference, whether they're struggling with a mental health issue or substance abuse issue, or they're just an everyday person and they want to do better. Mr. R is a North Star. He was my third grade teacher, and he was a man that had a ferocious commitment to the idea that every single human being had something right with them, a strength, a gift, or talent to give to the world. And he would ask every kid every day, hey, what are you good at? What are you good at? What are you good at? Well, all I ever heard was what I was bad at. I can't sit still. I can't read. I can't spell. So when he would ask me that question, I would say, you know what? I'm not good at anything. But the thing about Mr. R is he never gave up. And he kept coming at me. And then one day he came to me and he said, Jonathan, you are wrong about yourself. You are so good at telling stories. Now, sometimes they're inappropriate stories you tell, which is, which was true. But he said he didn't care. He said, you are so good at telling stories that you could be a writer. I was 9. Nobody had ever said that to me before in my life. I looked right at the guy. I said, a writer? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Crazy, man. Like I can't spell, brother. And the guy looked at me and he said, Jonathan, in my class, screw spelling. And you know what? Like, right on.
Yes.
Hey, Jonathan, I think you got the name for your next book.
Yeah, exactly.
Screw that, for sure.
By the way, you said in another interview that, if I'm challenged with spelling, I know what to do. I'm going to marry my proofreader.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Or just scribble it so no one knows what you were trying to say anyway, right?
Right.
I love
but
it.
that idea that he represented, that I had some right with me. I should put aside the deficit lens that was surrounding me, and I should look at what I can do, not what I can't do, was life-changing. And so anybody out there struggling, let's not look at what's wrong, but what's right.
Right.
And then let's look at what people can contribute, not what they can't. And I think that's a guide for individual living. It's a parenting core principle, but it's also, I think, a bigger idea in this moment of time when we look at, an environmental crisis, we look at a social justice crisis, we look at a crisis of American government and beyond. There's so much that's wrong, and it's so easy to get paralyzed in that, and to get sucked into that hole. And let's acknowledge what's wrong, but let's figure out what we can do to make it a little bit better.
I love that. Amen to that. And so you talk about these mentors. Your mom sat you down after you took that assessment when you were a kid. Can you briefly just tell us a bit about what that meant and how that associated with your newest book titled Normal Sucks?
Yeah, let me give you just a little mental image of my mom, so you can kind of see her in your mind as I share with you this pivotal inflection point in my journey. So my mom, not a tall woman, on a good day in high heels, she's like 4'11", and she's got this very high-pitched, squeaky voice. She totally sounds like Minnie Mouse. She totally sounds like Minnie Mouse. And my mom curses like a truck driver. So if you were a teacher or a principal not doing right by her son, you did not want cursing Minnie Mouse in your office, you did not want that, but that's where she often was, and we all knew she was there because every dog in the neighborhood was running away. Right. So, when I was diagnosed with dyslexia and all these other good things, they do a bunch of tests, and when the test results came back, me and my mom were called into the school psychologist's office with a whole bunch of other teachers. And the moment we walked into that room, it was obvious that everybody in that room thought that we were getting the most terrible news you could possibly get. The lights were down low, there was jazz music playing in the background, there was a box of tissues on the table, right? All the mirrors were covered because, we were there to sit Shiva for the death of my normality. It's like a full on, like a funeral, and so they give us all the results, and it's all just the most negative language you can imagine. Talk about not what's right, only talk about what's wrong. It was Jonathan can't, disorder this, disorder that, disorder this. So we left that room, and we're walking outside, and I turned to my mom. I said, "Hey, Mom, am I normal?" And my mom looked right at me, and she said, "Jonathan, normal sucks."
Nice.
And she was right. It took me a long time to realize that, and my journey was a journey of healing from a wound of being called deficient. But she was right. Normal is not a way to live. It's a dead end. The only normal people are people you don't know very well. And difference constitutes our humanity. And that's the message of my mom. That's the message of my very subtly titled book called Normalcy.
I love it.
It's my gift to the non-readers out there, because you don't even got to read the book. Just look at the title, and that's all you got to go. You know?
Yeah.
But my life changed when she said that to me, and I wanted to say it to others.
I was just going to say that I love, as you said, Jonathan, that we are part of a community. No one's meant to go it alone. And you've had these wonderful people like your mother, like Mr. R, that have stepped up and saw, hey, I can speak not only encouragement, but really truth into this child who's growing up. So for our crazy, amazing human audience, because we're all looking for what you are doing, participating in ways great and small to make a difference in the world. What can we be doing actively to not only, let's say, encourage our kids to not get trapped in the abyss of comparing themselves, thinking less of themselves? What can we be doing to actively encourage and recognize their differences and celebrate them?
Well, I mean, first of all, for the sake of redundancy, but it's important to say important things over and over again. Focus on what's right, not what's wrong. That is such a powerful lens and ethical guide. Because if you think about it, how often do we go through the day and in our mind or not in our mind, we're just cataloging all the stuff we don't like about people. You know, we don't like about our colleagues. We don't like about our partners. We don't like about our kids. It is just a relentless barrage. And to check that every day, and to find the good every day in every person, and to celebrate that good with them, for them, is really important. Now, we also, as it pertains to children in particular, and I think this is really relevant in our current educational policy moment, we can't just talk about the good inside of kids. We have to find a way to organize their education around their interests, talents, and passions. Because what we know about young folks who struggle in school is if you just do the same old thing more, it's like yelling at a deaf person louder, right? It just makes no sense. Like school don't work for me, and now we're just gonna do more of it on a Zoom screen. You know, we need to take this moment and really design interest-based learning pathways for young folks. Because what we know about humans that thrive is that they don't get good at everything, they get good at something. And we know that humans who thrive have a sense of purpose and passion in their life. That's not to say you don't have to do hard things and pay your bills and do your taxes. That's not the point. The point is young folks should be able to organize their learning around their interests. And that's something that we can do now more than ever. You know, I'm suspect of looking at the challenges we face and trying to bright side it, but that is an opportunity for us right now. An opportunity is to start building an educational environment that's around people's strengths, interests, and talents, and not just their deficits and their problems.
I love that. That's so good. And you also talked about a program called Give Your Gift. I was thinking that's such an amazing idea of when you find out what your gift is and you have this thing that you can do, then you give it to others. Will you expound upon that?
Yeah. So, you know, my mom, as we've alluded to a few times, big role model, mentor in my life, obviously. She's also run a nonprofit organization in the greater Los Angeles area for the past 43 years. 44, I'm 43. So I grew up in that environment, you know. I was, you know, licking fundraising envelopes in elementary school. I was answering the phones in middle school. I was volunteering in their therapeutic preschool program for young folks who had experienced trauma. And throughout my entire life, I've contributed to her organization in some way, any way I can. That's partly to support their mission. It's also to live the truism that's often just rhetoric and not reality, that change is local. You know, we need to find a way to contribute locally. I do a lot of speaking and advocacy work all around the world. I write books that travel far and wide. I do projects that are nationally based, but I also hold myself accountable to contributing locally where I'm from. And so when the pandemic occurred, and the shutdown happened in March, my mom never shut her organization down. She kept it running the entire time. And we were engaged in a conversation about, what can we do in this moment that activates the core values of her organization, core values I believe in, core values that she champions and fights for. And one of the core values is that we all have something to contribute, we all have something to give, and that we have a sort of social service mentality too often that is deficit based in its origin. And it's the notion that low income, low resource folks, marginalized communities need a professional to come in and fix their problem. And that's epidemic in our social service systems, in our charity mentality. Charity is the idea of doing for someone opposed to doing with. And so that's a core narrative that we've always tried to challenge. And so when the pandemic happened, we came up with this idea, this campaign called Give Your Gift. And you can find it, #GiveYourGift online. And it was a call to everyone within her network, not her professional network. What I'm referring to here is everyone who is a partner in SBCC. That's my mom's organization, who is a part of one of their ventures or programs. We asked those folks in Wilmington, in Compton, in Watts, in Pico Rivera, we asked those people to share their gift with a video and then to share it in the community. And that idea of flipping the narrative, of you have something to give in this moment of crisis. You have something to give to your neighbor, to your friend, to your colleague, to your child, whatever it is, we don't care. And what emerged was this amazing portfolio of community capacity. We don't talk a lot about community capacity. We talk about community deficits and problems. But in Watts, there's a whole bunch of resilient folks who have something to give. Same in Wilmington, same in Compton. And what emerged was community capacity. Somebody who was an expert at fixing cars could share that with somebody so they'd save some money. Somebody who was a beautiful stylist who could share that when all the salons were closed. Amazing artists who are called graffiti artists who could come and do a mural in somebody's home or outside of somebody's home to beautify the neighborhood. It was an activation of community strength, and we need that more than ever.
Amen to that. I mean, for real.
That's beautiful. Now, in our closing moments, because we want to honor your time, we want to honor everyone's time, is there anything that we may have missed that you'd really like us to know, that you'd like to just communicate for everybody to kind of get on board with this vision, of which Katrina and I are very excited about, which is, honoring people's differences and finding the strengths in those differences? Is there a big takeaway you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I mean, you all could read your introduction again, because that was that was just the best part of my whole year. Like I think my mom wrote that for y'all, but
right.
I want everyone to know that they have something to give in our moment of great challenge. And we are at an existential moment and a precipice as a society, as a species, and we have something to give, to our loved ones, to our family, to our neighbors, to people we don't even know. And that is a ethical obligation, and it's a great opportunity to contribute. But at the same time, I want people to know that this is not all on us. We need to be advocates for a more just world. That's what my mom did. She was in that office every day, and she was fighting for my right to learn differently, of course. But ultimately, my mom became an advocate for every student in that building and beyond. She was fighting for systems change. The idea that we can't have an educational system that works for some kids. We have to have an educational system that works for all kids. And that's what we need right now in this moment. We need to give our gifts, and then we need to advocate for a world in which not just some people, but all people thrive.
That is
Amen.
excellent advice. And Jonathan, if people want to stay in touch with the things that you're doing, how should they do that?
Yeah, you come find me on all the social stuff. It's on all the platforms. It's the same thing. It's at the Jonathan Mooney, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Or send me an email, which I prefer. I'm kind of old school that way. My email address is jonathanmooney@me.com. And the other thing I want to leave folks with, in the spirit of giving your gift, I am celebrating my 20th year as a social entrepreneur and activism for a more inclusive world. And in celebration of that 20 years and in recognition of how much more work must be done, I am giving away presentations to anyone who is interested. A school, a group of moms and their kids via Zoom. So if you're out there and you say, hey, this story could inspire somebody, send me an email, send me a DM on one of the socials, and we'll make that happen together.
Fantastic, Jonathan. You've inspired us so much. I mean, to create our own stories, our own once upon a time, to tell our story, like you tell your story in your books, and you've done that. And your third grade teacher who inspired you to just tell stories. I love that. And we need to celebrate inclusion, write our own stories, and, help other people. I love the Give Your Gift. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it was just a great honor, and thanks for the good work that you do and letting me be just a small part of it today.
You are a truly crazy, amazing human. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
And, for fun, we ask all of our guests if there's someone that you'd like to nominate to be our next crazy, amazing human, someone you think is exceptional, making the world a better place, someone like people should know that maybe they don't know. I think it's your mom, one of them.
You beat me to it. I nominate Cursing Minnie Mouse, okay? And just be prepared with your bleeper, okay? Because it's gonna get ugly.
I think we need a little spice on this show. I love
She'll
it,
come on and say, I effing love my son.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
'Cause I know there's no easy way through the wood. I know my innocence is gone for good. I don't need a fairy tale ending. What I need is a new beginning to be mine, redefine my own once upon a time. I wanna write my own story, paint my own picture. Hey, 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 hey. My own once upon a time.
So that's our podcast. We want to thank Jonathan Mooney so much. Thank you, Jonathan, for being with us today, for sharing not only his knowledge and his experience, but his passion and helping us recognize that normal sucks.
Normal sucks.
Yeah. To remind us that we all have something to give, and we all can be advocates for celebrating our differences and our own unique stories. They are important, each one of us. And it was such a powerful message for all of us to hear that. So let's just think about that. And remember that if you've enjoyed today's episode and you think it would be meaningful and helpful for someone you know, please be a crazy, amazing human and share this episode with them. You never know. You may be the catalyst for changing someone's life from hearing Jonathan's story.
Right. So a couple of quick reminders. Make sure to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we've also filmed the podcasts, so you can check us out on the Crazy Amazing Humans YouTube channel. Make sure and leave comments while you're there. We love to hear what you're thinking.
We really do. And most of all, we want to make sure to thank you for being with us today. And we want to remind you that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy, amazing human experiences, one person at a time.
Right. And as always, this week, we want to encourage you to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world. I'm Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Katrina Carlson. Stay healthy, stay connected, and we will see you next time right here on the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
Something crazy, crazy amazing.